We're live.
Now, would you plug this in?
Hello, hello, hello. I'm so glad you're joining us this afternoon. We have somebody here that I think you're going to enjoy a little chit chat with. We're going to kind of call this the Wings of Valor. You know, I was laying there in bed this morning and I just love to smell the. What is it? I just messed it up.
JP4 in the morning.
Jet fuel in the morning. That's because of him. You know, the perfume I wear. And if you want to buy some, get on our website and you can buy some. And you women, your men will love you. Charles Orwell Wright. He is an F4 pilot, and only because he was forced to by the government. It was their rules. 65 years old. He's 73 and he can fly. He put his little old bony hands on his wee high to a grasshopper. He was a pilot. That's what he is. Don't know how to do nothing else but pilot here and pilot there. Pilot here and pilot there. So we're him talk a little bit, okay?
Alrighty.
He's really, I call him captain, and so does that church. All sign of Orville. Does anybody have any idea why? His last name is Wright.
First to fly and live the longest, I say no.
I sort of say, thank you so much. Telling people, thank you very much, because they set up so we can do some talking today. And the reason I wanted to call it Wings of Valor, because there are so many things I could tell you that would interest you and probably scare what out of you too, if what he does. The faster he could go, the happier he was. If he was flying jets now, he would be in hog heaven, or should I say airplane heaven. But anyway, how did you get started flying?
When I knew I wanted to be a pilot. But 1 or 2 years later, I knew I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh.
And of course, many years later, I knew I wanted to be an air story. Because flying was something I knew from way, way, way back that I wanted to survive it all.
Yes. Some of the stories that I have heard, very lucky, because there's some that can just walk across to fly them. And he is living today. He's got children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and he is living a very good life. The only thing is he would love to have out there listening. If you decide you would like to give this gentleman one, oh, what a blessing that would be for him. Okay, right. Tell us about your first experience F4 cockpit, the background knowledge of it. Tell us.
The first flew in 1958, the F4 Phantom.
That's right.
Became operational in 1960. Big dog on the street when this.
Wow.
They made over 1,000 and just nearly 250, 200 of them nearly made. It was operational by the Air Force, the Navy, and the Marine. All flew them all simultaneously. Both the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels both had them as the air craft, because when this thing came out, it broke all sorts of.
I hear they're still flying.
Iran still flies them. Turkey still, I think. Japan finally parked their last few. Finally parked them because they are old, hard to get the parts, and it was a marvelously very rugged, and it is still the world leader of distributing big parts. True
It's
story.
a good looking airplane. I'll tell you that right now.
It is.
Looking one, and that's what the last one he flew in the service, wasn't it?
C9, which is actually where they were reserving, but the A4 when I was training command down in Beeville, Texas.
Okay, well, I know that the F4 crew pilots, or was it two?
Just
Knew
a
that.
pilot at a Rio.
Exactly.
And they also have it as a officer type thing in some of the other airplanes, like the F-15, the other two crewed airplane type thing, weapon system officer type thing, where they run a lot of the type things out and checking your six if you're going into bad guy territory. It's nice to have another set of eyes looking around, see if nobody's sneaking up on you.
Absolutely. At time you got. What does that mean?
It's actually flying time. The time that you get in that thing, crank it up, taxi out, and blow out of there. That's
Yeah, I got that. Well, what about cat shot?
that's one of the most fun things you can do.
You mean
Daytime
it's not-
VFR off there's only one thing holding you on the ship.
And that's
It's
it.
that little dog bone. It's set right here on the end of the tail of the airplane, which has got the cable that's attached and everything out. They've checked you out and everything. Of course, the final checker, be sure that your flaps down, your trim setting, and the airplane they can see. And you just saluted, put your head back. You had your hand all the way over to the cat, which is a bar that you could stand out to hold by the throttles to have it. You was shot, and you made that 180 feet in about 2 seconds. From 0 to about 140 knots.
It is not for the faint of heart. You would leave your tummy back there, okay? Oh, someone rhinos in the Republican Party that needs to go out to the pasture.
Just the nickname for the F4, which had many other nicknames too. Lead, double ugly.
Double ugly.
Yes, the most efficient converter of JP4 to black smoke was another one.
Oh, for its unique characteristics compared to other fighters. What?
It was the first real twin engine, 2 radar, and the new radar guided missiles. Took it from the gun age to the missile age. And that was the big factor because the electronics was getting into tremendous acceleration and advancements and everything. And the computers were getting so much better. In other words, it didn't have to be the size of your house to work. And the radars were getting where they could get so much smaller and more accurate. And the radar used to guide AIM-7 Sparrow missile for an extended range on somebody. You have to be dang close to them. If they know that you're there and they're maneuvering, especially if they have a highly maneuverable airplane, it is hard to get a gun kill on somebody. And if they're moving around, and of course, bullets, you have to do all the thinking for them. And if you're sitting behind someone and they're turning, if you're just going like this, that bullet just goes straight and it's going behind them. Mm-hmm. You have to pull a bunch of lead out here to project these bullets out in front of this, to project where this airplane's going to be at in the next few seconds right there. Wow. And that's 2,500, 3,000 feet, kind of like max range. And like I said, somebody in a plane, a jet, accelerating all that, if you can get away from you real quick.
Oh boy, his plane knows his plane. Well, you go what, 2.5 Mach?
At that time, like I said, this was the big dog treat. It could go Mach 2.5. It could go to 50,000 feet. It set all sorts of records, the 15 records that it held till 1975 until the Godzilla F-15 came out. Mm-hmm. But the speed, the maneuverability, the capability of it to climb from the deck to nearly 40,000 feet in 1 minute.
Wow.
Was just unprecedented for any other airplanes.
Wow. The
Century Series fighters and all that, they were neat, but they were mostly single engine airplanes. They have near the thrust that the J-79 engine on this one produced, like nearly 11,000 pounds. And you had 2 of them, so that was 22,000 pounds. You plugged in the afterburner, additional 8,000 to 9,000 pounds. So that's like, 18 or so right there. So you had like 38,000 pounds of thrust. And if you were real light in fuel, and of course, if you're that low for a place to land, but you could be coming off the deck with a few thousand pounds of gas, and you could be 1-to-1 thrust to weight ratio. Of course, now all the fancy airplanes, they can come off the deck with a full bag of gas, and they're loaded out for combat missiles, bombs, whatnot, and still have over 1-to-1, which basically allows them to go accelerate, go straight up.
Wow.
Which is neat.
I started to say you would love that.
Yes, indeedy.
But the only thing is the government seems to think that because 65, you're too old, and he could outfly any young guy out there today. Give him an opportunity. I don't know why they have Quando go by, or why doesn't it go by the person there? I don't talk about the president, but we've got two of them that are about the same age. One needs to be out, and one is coming in that's got a brain. So the age doesn't make the difference. It's the person. So why did they make you retire at 65?
That gets away from the objective standard. Oh, it's certain decision by this person. This person thinks something different. This person thinks something different. But if you just basically draw the lines to 65, that's the drop dead line. You can't go past that. That makes it final and real simple.
Well, it did, but it took out some really good flyers, not just his buddies too. I know that you could carry up to 18,650 pounds of weapons, right?
The F-4 had 5 hard points on it. And it also had what would be the sparrow cavities for the sparrows. They had kind of like indentations where they plane. And you could carry a lot of bombs and still have your 4 air-to-air missiles to go into bad guy territory. You can be able to fight with anybody else that wanted to be out there to play.
No, we don't have much time today, but we will pick this back up at another time. But you did tell me a story one time that he was so excited he was going to finally get to go fight. He's a fighter, okay? What do fighter pilots like to fight? Well, he was being sent to, I'll let you pick up what happened.
It's the spring of 1980. The Mariel boat lift was in progress. And of course, dictator Castro in Cuba was kind of basically prisons and sending the riffraff across. And these poor people were coming in some of the pieces of wood and all that sort of stuff. Carter was the president at the time, and he decided to allow cover for the helicopter transport ship that was right in the middle of the Key West and Cuba out there, right on the meridian. And Castro liked to rattle his sword, and they was afraid that he might do something unless there was somebody else to deter any operations like this. So they sent our squadron down to Key West. Most fabulous debt that I probably ever went on, because it was one of those where Hershey Control was the big radar, and we got down there, and lo and behold, all this secret stuff came into that we had read about. This is this is just magic stuff, all the armament and everything else. Just as soon as we get out there, you could see the pallets, the missiles were out there on the trailer. We're sitting there with the electronic stuff, the KY key stuff and everything. Our realtor says, I've never seen this. We got to we're in their secret stuff reading this thing. And the next day we go out there, here it is. It's loaded with 4 Sparrows and 4 Sidewise. It was the doomsday load. The CO, XO, and the AMO had the green ink. In other words, they were Vietnam era guys, and said, we never flew with that in combat. Because they might have 2 Sparrows and 2 Winders, what would they load up with, and they was going out and dropping bombs, because that's what their mission was, to go out there and put holes in the ground out there and support the ground troops or try to knock out some bridge.
Well, that's what they were doing in the Vietnam War, but
That's
this
right.
was going to be a different type of.
So we go down there and we're going to be the deterrent. Sure enough, we're getting there, and real nice setup. They had, where we'd sit there in our flight gear, ready to go. Just as soon as the klaxon came on, we'd start running out to the airplane. Our plane captain would be underneath the airplane, just sitting in the shade. He'd hear the klaxon. He'd flip the electricity onto the airplane. He's starting gear, and we go scurrying up there, and we'd run up into the thing, jump into the cockpit, and he'd put the top. In other words, that's the most important ones. That's what you got your parachute connected to in case you had to eject. And he'd pull the pin, he'd show that to you, and he'd slam it on the side and putting the ladder up, because the right engine was windmilling. Just as soon as I came in, I'd hit the igniter on the thing, it would be lit off, and by the time it's lit up and got fully speed and cranked up, he'd be going down the seat where he'd be clear right there where I turn and start the left engine.
Wow.
This is standing start now, and you could get basically everything cranked up, run from the airplane. It was probably about 2 minutes to get the engines running. And then the stray voltage checkers, once you came in on your internal power voltage generator on there, disconnecting your air and electrics, you put your hands up and they say, okay, we got everything. Meanwhile, you're fixing the rest of your coke fittings, the leg brace to get strapped in, you get your gloves on and get situated in the cockpit. And they would go through and check all 8 of these missiles before they pull the safety pins. And they show you these bunch of flags and everything as they have, and boom, off we go. And we could be airborne from a standing start in about 4 minutes, always less than 5 minutes time frame.
Wow.
And we got to scramble at least once every day as a practice one. And the fun was Hershey Control would take you, they'd give you vector, this, that, and other, and we just get out. Had the code words for it, says this is a practice scramble. Get out there as fast as you can, but don't hurt yourself. If it's a real thing, here's the code word. And this is fabulous. We'd sit and fly that the whole day. We'd set the shack in kind of like a 15-minute ready alert hour. You could go out and eat this, that, and the type thing, and just be ready to go, watching the TV. Next morning, you went out and kind of pre-flighted the airplane, checked it over and everything, and the next guy, so the day off, which had never happened to me before in the military. Unbelievable. So we're doing this for several days, and all of a sudden, we're kind of like wearing the airplanes out, because we're flying them hard and heavy type thing. And the MiGs are kind of like staying down there close to Cuba. They're not really coming up there to the parallel that they were worried about, because if you put a supersonic pass over top of the helicopter close to it, you basically collapse the rotor blades and it crashes. You kill everybody. So that's what we were there to prevent. And we're on a kind of like afternoon type thing. All of a sudden, there's a call that said, get back to the squadron now. And we scurry back in there. And of course, they came in and they did this secret brief type thing. So this is what's happened. There was a Bahamian cruise boat, and it was out there trying to help these poor people coming along in their rafts and everything. And they were picking up people, and our helicopter guys were picking up people. The Coast Guard was out there also. And they decided to take about, I think it was 13 MiG-21s were circling around this Bahamian PT boat. And for some strange reason, one of these MiGs fired its ATOL missile, and it went right down the smokestack, exploded, sunk the ship, killed all, I think it was like 13 on this PT boat. And we're going, holy smokes, this is going to be it. And man, we start flying. And I mean, we're just continuous, section takes off. The next guy set up, you're sitting there playing AC-Deuce or whatever, kill time. A few minutes later, boom, they give us the practice scramble, off we go. And we do that for 2 days solid. And he said, well, we need a little break. So we need to work on the airplanes, need to tune the radars, and just give the little maintenance people and everything a little break. And he said, okay. So this is no practice scrambles today. Guess who's got the first duty? That's right. Me and my Rio, JJ Krim. And JJ was funny. He was about ready to get out of the military. He was going to be a cop in Philadelphia. I think what his game plan was. And he had 28 days to go.
Wow.
And we're sitting there playing AC-Deuce. Boards all get out and going, I ain't going to get to fly today. And we're sitting on all this torso harness and everything else except for our gloves and helmet is the only thing in there. Helmet bags in the airplane. Everything else is on us. So you know how comfortable that is. At least we had the air conditioning in place.
It's hot in those things.
We're sitting there, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and it was a certain line that just as soon as our operations duty officer, whoever was lucky enough to catch the watch at that time, would pick it up, it immediately sounded the klaxon outside, and the scramble was on. And I remember this phone ringing. I said, JJ, that's it. And he said, no, it's not, Orville. And I start running to the door. And just as I'm getting to the door, I could hear the ODO going, "This is it." And he picks it up. The klaxon comes on. And sure enough, they give him the code word. This is not the practice. This is the real thing. Yahoo! I'm going to reduce some weight and drag on my airplane real quick because the Sparrow was 1,000 pounds.
Ooh, dogs.
And a lot of drag, a lot of weight. And so we go scurrying out there. The plane captain's got the same thing, hot start type thing. And all I hear from the back is, "Oh, I can't believe we're going to war. I can 20 days ago. I can 20 days ago. I believe we're going to war." And we get our pins pulled and we crank out. And we knew we was in trouble because our own dedicated C-130 aircraft was taxiing down the taxiway nearly about to where we was. And he had two of his engines going and he was cranking on the third one right here because he was cranking and taxiing at the same time.
Wow.
And that was Lee Terravon Tanker.
Yeah.
And Wizard Travis Holland, he was the lead on me, and he's ahead of me by just a few seconds. He blows out, and we were supposed to go straight off the runway to about a mile off before turning on this heading. Was taking off on 04, if I remember, after the heading for the long runway, Key West. And since this was the real thing, I'm going to turn early. And so we blow out of there. He's way out here in front, and I turn, and I'm just going right down the beach line right here, just a few hundred feet off the deck right there in full burner, trying to catch up.
You really couldn't wait to get out
I
there.
couldn't wait to get there, no. And Hershey Control said, "This is it. Your vector is 120 for 600 miles, Buster." And we're going, 600 miles? This is going to be a one pass, ripple everything, jettison the center line fuel tank, and then go high to find the tanker because that was a long way to go in an F4. And as we head that way, we probably make it 100 miles or so. And they said, "Okay, guys, you can go ahead and throttle back and just keep on going." And so we slowed up, got it out of the burner. And by that time, we've already burned several thousand pounds of gas real quick. And we're in combat spread, kind of flying a good mile and a half or so, looking at each other type thing, looking on radar, and we're discussing tactics and we're going, "What the heck's going on?" type thing. We don't know. We're in the dark. And we still don't know what's happened till sometime later. And they said, "Just keep going." And we make it probably about 300 miles. We're about halfway there. And they said, "Okay, guys, you can go ahead and turn around. Your tanker's over in this position right there. You can get tank gas off him and just stay airborne for a while to let you know."
Oh, wow.
So, wow, we're going, gee whiz. So we go up there. Sure enough, our tanker's out there. We get gas. We play around for a while. And they said, "Yeah, you can just run some intercepts. It's basically over." As we found out later, there was a Coast Guard helicopter out there looking in that same area where that Bahamian cruise boat, PT boat, had been sunk, just checking for possible survivors. And they were down there, and all of a sudden there's about 9 MiG-21s that circle it, and they start circling around, getting lower and lower and lower, i.e. that's why they called us to come and get them. So that's why they scrambled us, the real thing. And he says, well, he got over there and he went over there fairly close to our Coast Guard cutter that was one of the ships that was out there. Mm-hmm. And when he got over close to the Coast Guard helicopter, he was basically safe, and the MiGs left him alone. And gas anyway, too, so they had to get back to the field. And I remember when we came back, our ground guys and all that are looking up, so we had missiles on the airplanes, and they're going, "Dang it, they didn't get to shoot anything." Everybody was disappointed we didn't get to lose some weight. And I remember when I get back and we shut down, get the airplane pinned up, get everything safety, and I'm starting to take my glove off. And my left hand is kind of like, there's something sticky on my glove here. And I kind of like start peeling it back. And sure enough, I go, "Oh, that's starting to hurt now." I had peeled off a big chunk of skin, about a 1/4 inch wide type thing, and about that deep, because there was a little burr on the step. And when I grabbed it with my hand with that full grip to get up that thing right there, because I was in a hurry type thing, I had peeled something over there right there. It had bled all that time, but your adrenaline was so strong at that time right there, didn't even feel it.
Wow.
But man, it hurt after a while. I got there and I'm just going, holy smokes.
Can they make some medication like that? That'd be cool.
It'd be a good if you had it.
Yeah, I heard that story and I thought that was a very neat story. They
True
went
story.
out to go play, and he said the Cubans ran away. And he didn't like that too much because they wanted to go play.
There was another time that we were airborne at the time, and Hershey Control says, your snap vector is this, bogeys. Oh, goody! So man, we go screaming that way, and it was
You know what
about,
bogies are, don't you?
that's the bad guys, yes. And we're getting closer to the helicopter because we're going to protect the helicopter transport ship, and it's right out there in the middle. We can see it. We're screaming down there. We're looking on the radar and everything else, and expecting the MiGs to be low, maybe possibly making a run on the helicopter or the ship itself. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like they're passing overhead now. And it's like, oh, they're way up there. And so we turn, and we're in full burner, and we're just screaming after them type thing. And there was two MiG-21s in a section right here that we're following, and there was another MiG-21 way off here to the side. And we're sitting here, and we're just going right here with him, and they didn't want to turn because we're catching up to it right there, and they didn't want to turn because that would be making them closer to us where we get a real good shot at them. And so this third airplane, he starts getting low on gas, so he peels off, and he heads back to his home field where they took off at. But we stay with them for a while longer. So now we're getting a little bit low on gas too, type thing. So we just let them go. So we kind of turned off to the side, but they had to continue and diverted to a MiG field. It was on the far east corner of Cuba down there. They didn't make it back to their home field by any close start.
Well, this has certainly been a very good afternoon talking with Orville, Captain Orville. Is JJ still around, or do you know?
You have no idea. I lost track of him years ago.
Years ago.
Because that's a long time ago
Yeah.
now.
It was.
1980. That's a few years, yes.
Yeah, just a few years. So the next time that we get to talk with him, I'd like to go and let him walk us through a combat mission sequence of what they would do. Don't you think that'd be kind of interesting? Could you do that?
Absolutely.
So we're going to say good evening for this day. I salute you. I thank you, and I thank you, Captain Orville,
You're welcome. Thank you.
very much for telling us these stories. And this is the lady. And I shout out to you, you amazing people, because we serve an amazing God. And this is an amazing man that was brought back. Thank you, thank you, thank you.